My name is Stephen Hayet. If you want to learn about my two new plays, Zoom Date and Super, that'll be premiering with Roaring Epiphany Production Company, watch this video. When did I fall in love with theater and why did I have to be part of the theater world? I've loved theater from a really, really young age. My grandma was in the original Broadway Broadway company of Pal Joey in the 1940s with Gene Kelly. And she took me to shows all the time when I was younger. I'd go to the Paper Mill Playhouse and see plays. She directed and choreographed my elementary school plays. So I was in a Wizard of Oz Junior playing the Tin Man, and my grandma helped choreograph that. So I've always loved theater and just felt a part of it. I love the community. I love people coming together and creating things. I love being able to make people happy and having an audience applaud and just that joyous experience. So I was hooked since I was really young, and I've always loved theater. Did it all through middle school and high school as well. With writing, I always loved writing and telling stories. And when I was a really little kid, I would put out all my action figures and my race cars and make up these stories as I go in these shows and force my parents and my grandparents to watch me do these mixed up plays when I was really little. But in high school, I used to write a lot, and I used to do it more for sketches. Anytime there was a group project that would give me the option of writing a sketch to perform in front of the class, I would always do it. And I wrote a ton in high school, and then I stopped for a while, and I went through a period of where I would talk about writing a lot, but didn't actually do it, where literally my Google Drive is full of half-started Google Docs with just ideas that I never finished. And then it was probably my late 20s. I started writing, and I finished a short play and a short film that I worked on with a friend, and I was hooked. And that's when it's been nonstop and constantly writing and been an obsession where if I have a moment of free time, I start thinking to myself, I should be writing. And that probably started in my late 20s. But I've always loved telling stories, but it didn't become a thing that I do. It took a really long time for me to feel like I can call myself a writer. And that probably hasn't happened to the last few years. With theater, I love the fact that it's happening live and it's a unique experience that everyone shares in that room, and it will only exist for the people in that room. No performance is the same because you have the human element. Every audience is different. You have different actors. Things don't go exactly according to plan, and it's that kind of shared experience which makes theater so special. It's not perfect, but it's perfect. And I feel weird to say that. I've worked on a couple films, and you can wait till you get the shot. You can do a lot of pre-planning, but there's so many extra variables I found in the live theater of trying to do the same thing every night, but it won't be the same thing every night. And every show just brings that experience. And as an audience member sitting there, knowing that I saw this one show on this day, and it's an experience that won't be replicated. And there's something about that which intrigues me as a writer and writing for that. The process is different for different projects. Many times I'll have an idea, and it could be a character, a moment, a line, and I'll go from there and see where it goes. Some projects I like to outline, some I just dive in and see what happens and then fix it later. For these two plays at Roaring Epiphany, they were done in a very, very unique way. The artistic director, RJ, gave all the actors surveys, a Google form where they had to answer questions about characters that they would want to play. And the questions were ranging from what's a secret your character has? What are their interests? What superpower do they have? Just lots of different questions, pretty random. And then it was my job and Tom, the other playwright for his plays, to take as many of these facts and try to form a story of it. So I had that as a starting point, and then tried to put those together and make together a play. So that was my process for those plays, which was a whole new challenge and something I'd never done before. I worked with Roaring Epiphany, it was a couple years ago, I want to say it was 2019, in their sci-fi festival. Everything time-wise is a blur. It feels like it was only last year, but it might have been 2 years ago. They produced one of my short plays, Date with Death, in their festival, and I got to work with RJ and the actors, and it was just a really fun experience. The show was in New York City at the Playroom Theater, and it was a great time. And then about November, RJ reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in writing Zoom plays for their acting ensemble in the fall. And we put on this event. Tom and I each wrote 2 Zoom plays, and it went really well. The actors had a really fun time. So we decided we're going to do it again for this May, of writing 2 more Zoom plays, each of us, for their actors to have these opportunities. Roaring Epiphany is an inclusion theater company that gives opportunities to actors and actors with disabilities. So it's a chance for actors to get opportunities to play characters they wouldn't normally play and have fun and be a part of the theater community, which it's just an amazing experience to just work with people in general and have an experience of everyone coming together. So when Roaring Epiphany asked me if I would be a part of this, I said yes right away. RJ, I first met him because he directed Date with Death, and the one, which was another short play that I wrote. And what I love about RJ is he's incredible at explaining things as an actor and trying to convey explaining things as a director and trying to convey things to actors. And he's very compassionate and understanding. And as a director, he's also the biggest cheerleader. He wants his actors to succeed. He wants the events to go well. He wants them to crush it on stage. And you can tell when he's in the room, when we're rehearsing, that he really roots for his actors and he wants them to succeed. And I think the actors sense that, which is why they keep coming back and working. The Roaring Epiphany is like a family where many of the members have been in multiple shows. They do the Lion's Den poetry nights. They do the sci-fi festival. They've done the Zoom festivals. But just by being in a few productions of Roaring Epiphany, I start to meet the family because of how many people are used over and over and keep coming back because they want to work with RJ and the rest of the team. So they had asked us to write 2 plays in the fall, and we did, and it was a lot of fun. And then during our meeting, when we were talking about doing it in the spring, I forget who brought it up, but we were just talking and throwing around ideas, and it came up with the ideas of, hey, we're like the playwrights in residence here. And then RJ decided to make it official because we've been kind of unofficially doing it for the last year. And I had a play before the Zoom plays with them, and so did Tom. Tom had worked with them for a while, which is why RJ reached out to us. So it's nice to have the title and be like officially part of the Roaring Epiphany family, and I love it. And I wear it like a badge of honor. But it was just fun working with them and writing with them. And having this title again just makes me feel officially part of the family. So how these 2 plays came about. In the fall, when I was asked to write Zoom plays, RJ just said, write a Zoom play. And I thought that was a pretty big challenge because I had never written something specifically for Zoom. A Zoom medium where you're trying to write and justify why 2 characters are talking through a screen. For the spring, RJ upped the ante, and Roaring Epiphany is about giving actors opportunities and the opportunities to play characters that they wouldn't normally play. So he let the actors kind of pick the characters that they would want to play. He sent out a Google form with lots of different questions, their characters' interests, their hobbies, their superpowers, if they have a dark secret. And then it was the job of Tom and I to take these surveys and take the answers from them and put as many of them as possible into the plays and into these characters for these actors. And I got some incredibly creative answers. And honestly, the weirder the answer, the more fun it was to write, because it made me think outside the box. It made me think of how am I going to put this all together. The analogy I always give is that scene in Apollo 13 where they empty all the parts on the table and say, make a filter out of this. And everyone's just holding up random parts and being like, how do we make this work? And these survey questions, the answers that we got from a diverse group of actors couldn't be more diverse, from what the interests were, to what their superpowers were, to what dark secrets they had. One of them said their dark secret was that they had an evil twin. One person said their superpower was that they could turn people into gummy bears. Like, we're talking like all over the place. So trying to find a way to take answers and these questions and make it work into a coherent story, it was just such a fun challenge. And I hope audiences enjoy it when they get to see the end product. So the 2 plays that we wrote, the first one is Zoom Date. And that's what you'd expect. It's a Zoom date. A girl is going on a date with a guy, but his problem is he falls in love way too quickly. So it's a comedy about this date with this girl who's very nice and a guy who falls in love way too quickly. And there might be a second date involved in there as well. The other play is called Super, and it's about a group of superheroes. and with their powers, and one is disillusioned with being a superhero and wants to quit their superhero league because being a superhero is kind of a thankless job now where you're expected to save the day. But if you don't save the day, people get mad at you for not saving it enough. So she's a little disillusioned with being a superhero and is looking to start a new profession. And those are the two plays that I wrote, Super and Zoom Date. What do I want the audience to get out of these two plays? For these two, I just want them to have a fun time. When I write, I always try to throw some little message or moral or purpose to it. These plays are very silly. They're very fun. With Zoom Date, it's about, I would say for an audience, if they're trying to get some sort of higher purpose out of this play, it's about love and being love and finding love. For Super, I'd say it's about feeling recognized and feeling appreciated. And at the end of the day, no matter what job you have, no matter where you're working, you just want to feel that what you do matters and that people appreciate what you do. But at the end of the day, with these two plays, it's a fun time. These plays are very silly. The actors are hysterical and are really having fun with a lot of the roles. So I just want the audience, they work hard during the day, just have a fun evening on a Thursday night and enjoy these two plays. So what I'm looking forward to, I want to see Tom's plays because I know nothing about them, which is part of the fun that when I get to watch the play, not only do I get to see my actors perform in the two plays I've written, but I get to see Tom's plays, and Tom Misuraca is a phenomenal, phenomenal writer. The other thing, which is really weird about being a playwright and watching plays on Zoom, is it's actually more nerve-wracking than watching it in a theater. And when I see a show live, I always sit in the back of the theater, and I'm always anonymously in the back, waiting to see if the audience laughs or awes or does the right reaction at the certain time. When you're watching a Zoom play, it's silence. So especially for a comedy, you have no idea if people like it or not, which is probably the most nerve-wracking thing as a playwright sitting there, because you're watching the actors perform. It's like watching a sitcom with no laugh track. You have no idea if the audience is responding to it, if they're on their cell phones, if they even left their computer and went to another room. You have no idea. So that's the most nerve-wracking thing about Zoom theater. But what I'm looking forward to most, besides seeing my actors and seeing them perform, is seeing Tom's plays and the fun work he did with the surveys he got and how he constructed his plays. Why should they watch the May Play productions? Because it's fun, and because these are a bunch of actors who are all over the country. We have one in New Mexico, we have one in Michigan, a bunch in New York. We're all scattered all over the place, and we're coming together to create theater. And at the end of the day, I love theater and was drawn to it by how it brings people together of all different skill sets and all different backgrounds and to make something that wasn't there before. And there's nothing cooler than seeing a group of people from all different backgrounds, from all over the country, coming together and creating something and doing it. And it's on a Thursday night. What else are you doing on a Thursday night? Come enjoy and watch the show. It'll be a fun time. So for these two plays, I wrote them specifically for Zoom. So one of the big challenges when I'm writing for Zoom is trying to write a play which is meant to be done where the characters are not in the same room and are on Zoom screens. So I like to write different effects in where one character's camera will be off for a bit, or maybe they'll be on mute, or maybe the background will change. They leave the room, they come back in the room. I like to incorporate that in the play because the characters are on Zoom. I don't know how these would be staged. If someone wanted to give it a shot, I'd be open to trying it and seeing what they can do. The thing I love about theater, especially when we're in the world of low budget theater, it's that it brings the most creativity. The way people can stage things with just simple props that you found at a dollar store is amazing. So if someone wanted to give a shot to put these on stage, I would gladly jump on it and see what we could do, because that's the fun part. But I wrote these specifically for Zoom, so I don't know if they'll have a life outside the screen, but that's perfectly fine. This is the moment we're in, and trying to capture where we are right now, which is on Zoom. I mentioned before, the one thing I love about theater is how it brings people together. And it's important that everyone has an opportunity. And as you mentioned in the question, why Hamilton should be more of the norm and not the exception, the opportunity to be on stage and create and work with people are skills and things that have benefited me in life long beyond, not just in the theater world. Being in high school theater and working with people and getting to meet different people has helped me so much when I went and got my MBA in business school. It helped me learn to communicate and talk with people. It also, being in different shows and telling different stories, helped put me in other people's shoes and helped me learn empathy and to think more where other people are coming from. Theater has this amazing ability to give people a common goal as they work towards something. And the more different voices and different opinions and different backgrounds and different stories that we have coming together to create those goals, it just makes the world better and the world richer. So I am all for hearing different stories and different backgrounds. It just makes it more fun and interesting. I know during the pandemic that we saw that some of the same TV shows were the things watched over and over and over and over again. And sometimes people find comfort in seeing the same stories. But there are so many new stories that need to be told and should be told. And the more voices and the more, not just voices on the stage in the form of actors, but voices in the form of different writers from different backgrounds telling them, it just makes the world more interesting. And if we're trying to understand humans are trying to understand each other better. If the only way we're going to be able to be empathetic to other people is if we can hear their stories and understand where they're coming from. And the best way is to be able to see that, and seeing that on stage is a really important step. Theater is about relationships, and it's about the people you meet. And I know that sounds kind of corny and cliche, but being involved in writing plays, even the short plays, full-length plays, you meet so many different writers and actors and artists and directors, and you form a community. And so being a playwright in residence and working with the people at Roaring Epiphany, I've met dozens of new actors and people just through Roaring Epiphany. And then through work with other theaters, I've been able to introduce people, and people have introduced me to other people. And you realize how small the theater world is because it's all people working together on different projects. Then they move to the next project and they work with different people. And it's just connecting this giant web of everyone together. So having positions like being a playwright in residence and a residence of the theater is so important because it helps build connections and build communities of getting to work with people. And then I know I'll take the experiences I learned while working at Roaring Epiphany and the challenges I faced by having to write different plays in different mediums for different specific actors and all these challenges. And I'll take that to wherever my next opportunity is. And but a lot of the people I've met through Roaring Epiphany, like I've made friends just through doing these plays and the connections. And these are things I'll take with me to wherever I go in the theater world. And that's why it's so important to have these positions, because it just brings people together and it gives us reasons to come together as a community. With Roaring Epiphany, of why actors and writers should get involved, they're at the core, they're just a good group of people. And they're just a good group of people to be around. They care. They want to create and make art, and they want to do it the right way. It's about giving people opportunities, people who might be passed over, giving them a chance to shine. And there's something so amazing about that. There's something awesome about asking someone who wants the ball, seeing who raises their hand and seeing what they do with it. And Roaring Epiphany gives those people the opportunities. I know RJ has talked about expanding our inclusion platform to include all different types of people, body type, race, ethnicity, orientation, because there are so many people who don't get the opportunities to play certain roles because they don't fit a type, whatever that type is. They're too tall, they're too curvy, they're not how the characters traditionally played. So for that reason, no one else gets an opportunity to play that character. So I know RJ wants to give people chances to play roles that they wouldn't normally get a shot. And there's something fun and important about that, as a writer, being able to write for Roaring Epiphany and being asked to write things, RJ gives me the freedom to write whatever I want, which is something that's really a lot of fun and really freeing, of RJ saying, here, write this play, it's going to get produced, whatever you write, we're going with it. And that trust is something that's really powerful as a writer, that I don't have to worry about him being like, I like this play, but can you change everything about it and give me a new one? That he's going to say, I like it, let's go with it, let's see what happens. And there's something fun about creating that way. Why are theaters like Roaring Epiphany so important and need the community's help and support? These theaters are important because they give everyone the opportunity. You don't have to be a professional actor to perform in this. You can. We have actors who are pursuing theater professionally and auditioning regularly. And then we have actors who just are people who really like to act and really enjoy being a part of it and being creative. In my first play that was done with Date with Death that we Roaring Epiphany performed, of the 3 actors in it, 2 of them were professional actors, and one was a teacher who was a friend of RJ's who had never acted before. He'd always wanted the shot. RJ kind of nudged him to give it a shot, and he was up on stage for the first time, and he did a great job. And there's something so amazing of me sitting in the audience and remembering how it was to be on stage for my first time when I was probably like 5 or 6 in an elementary school play. And that feeling and that rush of finishing a play and that job well done, and seeing this man in his, I think, late 20s get the chance to do that too. And there's something amazing about theater when it's small, community-based, that you have the opportunity to like give people opportunities. These are also the kinds of theater where we can take risks. And I mean that in the nicest way. With Broadway and larger commercial theater, it's harder to take risks because you have such a big financial investment in it. I don't blame Broadway theaters for not being incredibly daring when $10 million are on the line. I don't have $10 million to see if something works. But when you're dealing on a smaller scale, you can try things. You can take risks. You can try casting in a way you've never casted before. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we can try things. And it's not that RJ is going to lose $10 million if our Zoom shows don't go well on May 27th. There's not that pressure. You have more of this freedom to create and just see what happens, which is really fun and important. So for smaller theaters like Roaring Epiphany and other independent theater troupes, it's important to support them because they can try things and kind of shape the next wave. We kind of test the waters for how commercial theater will go. The things that work really well and are fun and experimental and make you think of theater in different ways that are being done on the lower independent level of theater, those are the things we'll end up seeing in Broadway. Hamilton, I know, started with a reading at Vassar, then was at the Public off-Broadway, and then went to Broadway. And shows on their journey, Hamilton couldn't have just jumped right to Broadway. It had the readings and development and feeling out the waters and seeing if this works, and being able to try things are important. So your independent theaters or off-Broadway theaters, it's important to support them because they get to try things and have fun and be creative. If you enjoyed this conversation and are interested in checking out Roaring Epiphany's May event, our title right now is Another Night with Steve and Tom. This time it's personal. It'll be May 27th. Go check out Roaring Epiphany's website or our Facebook page for more information, and hopefully we'll see you there.